Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. We continue our conversation now with Assemblywoman Liz Muoio from Mercer County. I know something that's near and dear to your heart is pay equity. We're hearing that debate play out nationally. We hear it play out in the presidential debates. How do you see it working in New Jersey?
Well, I think the reason you're seeing it play out nationally and in the state is because we still continue to have studies come out that show that there is a gap, a real gap of 20 cents on average. 80 cents on the dollar is what women make compared to their male counterparts. And if you're a woman of color, African-American women make 60 cents on the dollar compared to their male counterparts, and Latina women make 55 cents on the dollar.
Let me ask about the statistics you're using, because there's people that push back on some of these statistics and say that the pay equity gap isn't as big as people claim. They say there is a pay equity gap, but when you compare job for job, experience for experience, apples to apples, it still has to be fixed, but it's not 20 cents on the dollar.
Well, for example, in the nursing profession, a profession that is 90% women, female-dominated profession, women still, when you compare apples to apples, I think this was the Journal of American Medicine, or this was the University of California at San Diego, just did a study that came out this year that said that there's still a pay gap of $5,000 between male nurses and female nurses in a female-dominated profession. In the Journal of American Medicine did a study on physicians. Now, the raw gap, the raw pay gap, which you would attribute to not comparing apples to apples, comparing apples to oranges maybe, that certain specialties, time off, whatever. The raw gap between physicians was $51,000. When you back out all the different possible reasons that there could be a gap, it was $20,000 between men and women. So,
and regardless of what it is, it's still wrong. If it's a big gap or a small gap, it's still wrong.
But it's a real gap is my point. And I think transparency goes a long way to helping come to, figure this problem out. It's been 50 years since John Kennedy signed the Pay Equity Act. Back then, the average was 60 cents to the dollar that women make compared to men. We've done better. Now we're 80 cents on average. But we still have a long way to go. And they say that if we let the market sort of self-correct and wait till the market eventually catches up, it'll be the year 2051 before that actually happens.
So what can you do? What can the state do better?
I think part of the problem is realizing that there is a problem. And we had a bill earlier that the governor vetoed for various reasons, one of which he thought it was burdensome on business. Reporting that that bill included changes to statute of limitations, damages, but it also had a reporting component for businesses. And we have a bill now that's going through, it was passed by the Assembly, it's going through the Senate, and it's a bill I introduced last year and again this year. And it essentially says that if you want to have a contract with the state, it only affects businesses that want to have a contract with the state. The state gives out, millions and millions of dollars worth of contracts. If you want to have one of those contracts, you need to report, and the Department of Treasury will give you guidelines. We're putting it in the hands of the Division of Purchasing in the Department of Treasury. They will give guidelines as to what a company has to report. So all they have to do is fill in the grid so that we can get an idea of how you pay, how men and women are paid for equal work, equal job titles, equal experience. And then when the state determines who gets the contracts, that can be one of the factors that's taken into consideration when allowing for a contract to be given to a company. So, part of the problem, I don't think businesses want to discriminate against women. I think that in some cases, people may not even realize it's an issue, but it clearly is an issue.
But bringing it to the forefront, making it top of mind,
right,
it can help correct the problem.
There's a similar law that's been in place for years in New Mexico, and businesses have really had no issue complying with it. They fill out the form. It's just another one of the forms you fill out when you put in a bid for a state contract.
And if you want a state contract, you have to fix the problem before you apply.
If you don't want a state contract and you don't want the burden of having to report, then you don't have to apply for the state contract.
I'm going to ask a question that I would think that a Democratic legislator may not like, but this has come up in the presidential debate, and the Donald Trump people have said over and over again that a woman runs the company. We have a woman that's running the campaign, and we have equal pay throughout the Trump industries. Is he a positive example of what you want?
Well, I haven't seen his books, frankly, and he hasn't even shown his tax returns. So I haven't seen his company books. But it's interesting you bring that up, because of the Standard & Poor 1,500 top businesses, I think 5% have women who are CEOs, and I think 14% of them are women on their boards, despite the fact that 48% of the private industry workforce is women. So, women need to have a seat at the table, and I think that will help improve the situation. We make up more than half the electorate, yet we have 20% of the seats in Congress. I think you just need to get more women involved, or at least make people more aware of what the issues are. And if Donald Trump wants to open his company books and let us all see, what he pays, that's fine. But until I see that, I have no comment.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate talking to you. Assemblywoman Liz Muoio from Mercer County. Jersey Matters continues right after this.